His Excellency, Mr. Tuliepu Malilegoa, Prime Minister of Samoa. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, survival is not negotiable. No island left behind. Respect our right to survive and seal a deal for a new climate agreement are the calls made repeatedly over the past weeks and here in Copenhagen. Mr. President, for Samoa, the planet is our common heritage, the earth, our birthright, and our home. Changes to the climate should never divide us. We share the same environment, and we will be affected by the impacts of climate change, irrespective of whether we contributed or not to its causes. Climate change is a global menace. Its adverse effects in human and financial costs will continue to be borne disproportionately by vulnerable small island countries. Yet, it is not their fault that the islands are small, low-lying, and resources constrained. As a global community, our interests, though divergent and many, are inextricably linked. That is why we have come to Copenhagen, so that we can be part of the solution, not an obstacle to consensus building. We will come out of this process the biggest losers if no comprehensive and substantive deal is brokered and delivered before we depart. While we try to negotiate for the ideal agreement, let's not lose sight of the reality that the impacts of climate change are getting worse by the day. It is a grave disservice to our peoples if this great gathering of world leaders goes away with nothing to show. Climate change is an issue of survival for my country. Hence, our support for a legally binding instrument to reflect the science under the 2 tracks with an effective and equitable compliance regime. Climate change is real. It has already happened in our Pacific region. We see and experience it every day. Our coastlines have been eroded, our corals bleached, and saltwater intrusion is affecting freshwater resources and crop cultivation along our coastal areas. We have been forced to relocate populations and necessary infrastructure to higher grounds at very high costs, both financially and socially. Simply put, it is no longer a question of when, but rather the severity of the magnitude and their enormous cost to society. Samoa has experienced firsthand what natural catastrophes are capable of, from devastating cyclones, strong winds, and heavy flooding yearly, to the deadly tsunami that struck our country 2 months ago, causing massive destruction and the loss of many lives. These disasters resulted in major setbacks in the development of our country and also accelerated our adaptation responses to the adverse impacts of climate change. I highlight this to underscore both the magnitude and cost of climate change and the fact that small island states like Samoa are right up there with the rest, doing our share, often at great expense, to mitigate emissions and adapt to the adverse impacts of climate change. On our own, we cannot make much of an impact. The magnitude of the climate change challenge requires a total solution, possible only with the world working together. Mr. President, to ensure that small island developing states continue to undertake adaptation and mitigation activities, new and grant-based resources should be made available immediately, today. Such resources should be fast-tracked through simplified procedures and expedited access to dedicated funding earmarked for Pacific small island developing states, which, after all, have contributed the least to climate change. A comprehensive solution requires a new brand of leadership, one with vision and action that transcend the narrow pursuit of self-interest. A new brand of leadership that places a premium on equity and survivability of small island states ahead of political and economic expediencies. A brand of leadership with the strength of conviction to lead by doing, because it is morally correct and proper to do so, not because it is conditional on actions by others. In retrospect, the ineffective mitigation reduction actions then and now by nations in leadership positions, the posturing and rhetoric in negotiations that are short on sincere intentions and tangible solutions, the preoccupation of some in the blame and shame game to shift responsibilities and to avoid assuming greater role in solving the problem at hand have all contributed to the atmosphere of mistrust and suspicion that at times have taken a toll on those island states with everything to lose and who have been negotiating from the outset in good faith. Let Copenhagen be the city where we agree to change the climate of our dealings with each other. Let us trust each other and build bridges to reach out to all parties, to seek understanding and to make accommodations. We must not allow ourselves to leave Copenhagen without sealing a deal for a new legally binding climate change agreement for the future of our children. Thank you.